C97, slide 489, take 6.
Mark it. Speed, set.
And action.
And cut!
Yeah, much better.
This script was created by the three of us, really, sitting around a table and banging out ideas. Then Nigel went away and wrote it.
Well, it's a Second World War horror thriller. We're in Romania as the Russians are pushing the Germans back from the Urals through Romania, 1944.
Kind of seems to be in vogue at the moment. Did Nazi horror and Nazi zombies. I mean, I put this film more a war horror.
So my first steps then would be to read the script and go through it with a pen and just highlight the things that really stood out, and obviously things that were going to be, on a low budget production, quite difficult to do.
Truth be told, I wrote things in the script that the director just looked at me and shook his head and said, how are we going to do this? There's absolutely no way. But actually, you'd be surprised what you can achieve if you put your mind to it.
To clarify in my mind the more difficult and intricate parts of it, I storyboarded. Once I was able to put them in picture form, that helped me a lot to think through the rest of the... I could see it then in my mind. Once I'd drawn it, I could see it.
Speed. Camera set.
And action.
It has taken a long time to cast this. You know, we've searched high and low to make the characters fit the actors. I've spent long hours on the computer going through Spotlight, searching first for the face, for the experience, to see if these kind of actors would fit the part, contacting them, seeing if they were interested in doing it.
I'm a hardened major in the German army, and I've been awarded what's called the Knight's Cross for bravery, and I don't do things by the rules. I'm a bit of I stand up for my men. My men are my priority.
So I'm playing Lieutenant Eric Fuchs, who is the sidekick to Major Fleischer. I'm the logical thinker of the two of us, of me and Major, and I kind of relay that information and keep morale up with the lads to help us complete our mission.
I've been called into a meeting here, actually in the headquarters, to basically escort this German scientist on a suicide mission behind enemy lines.
She's a German scientist, and she's being sent on this mission to go and recover something from the forest, this interesting forest, by Himmler himself, because she works for the Ahnenerbe, which is a unit that Himmler has created to investigate all manner of strange, interesting theories.
It's always the most enjoyable part, is getting under the skin of someone new, you know, and learning more about World War II, you know, and especially reading biographies by the German soldiers, which, you know, seeing what these guys went through, because we all, as the one book I was reading, the guy says that, you know, no one wanted to hear our story.
I have done horror films before, and the horror films that I enjoy watching are ones built on relationships, so you're not concentrating on the horror, you're not playing the horror.
There is a point after a few rehearsals where it actually starts to come alive and live and become real, and you can feel it, and the actors can feel it. That's when we start shooting it.
Cut. Good. Good for you, James? Feel happy with it?
Yeah, lovely.
Okay.
Nice smoke.
I am the director of photography.
And tell me, what does that entail?
On this set, it entails basically being in charge of the picture, so taking Mark, the director's instructions, and committing them to film, or in that case, digital. I have to make sure that the lighting, when we're doing any, is good, is right, is appropriate for the scene, and I'm in charge of making the technical decisions on cameras, lenses, and so on and so forth, and suggesting shots, and in this case also operating the camera.
Scene 26, slate 87.
James and I, we've never met before this film. In fact, I got his name from Cinematographer magazine, and I read an article on him, and I thought, he's the guy. So I contacted him, and he was definitely up for it. He likes a challenge.
So, do you want him running across here at the 32 or something for his run through?
Yeah.
Do you want him to run straight through, or do you want him to run and drop into it?
I think drop into it.
Drop into it, okay.
I always see my job as trying to get the director's vision as faithfully onto the screen as I can.
Major!
Cut.
Cut.
I'm happy with the action.
Happy on camera?
Yep. Print it.
He's a great guy. He's a very technical guy. He knows his stuff. He knows his cameras and his lenses.
How'd you get on hand holding that like that?
It's all right.
It doesn't look that comfortable.
This is my first feature, and I needed somebody who I knew could do his job and help me in support of mine.
And so focus needs to go down there, because focus will be on the plane, which we'll add later on.
Okay. So you've taken your focus.
We've got sharps, we've got it, we are sorted. Mark is really quite excellent because he's got a very, very visual brain from his history as a storyboard artist. So the storyboards that we've had for the shoot have been excellent, and they're a very, very invaluable resource for knowing how shots want to pan out. And we basically work every night on looking at the storyboards and looking at the shots that we have, knowing that the scenes and locations that we're going to shoot in, and basically working from there. Where we can, we try and stay fairly faithful to the storyboards, but it's important as well to be flexible. So if things like your location change, which they can do on low-budget filmmaking, or your weather changes, or you just happen to have a good idea on the day, you need to be flexible. And so it's on set that I'll be there to help suggest shots to Mark and try and find things that we've got and make the best of what we can.
So this one is Colonel Schwab's office. So he's still got his, his things in it. Yeah. But it's boxes, getting kind of panicky, chaos, that kind of stuff.
Right, okay.
So I'm Tabitha, and I'm the production designer for Soldiers of the Damned. Well, you have to do a breakdown of the script, and you have to work out what you can and can't use in the scene, and you get as much material as you can so that the DOP and the director can get as many shots as they want. And what we like to do is try and get a 360 dress so that they can film any which way. Once they've got a 360 dress, then they can take bits if they want it, they can take wides, they can take close-ups, and you're safe in the knowledge that everything is covered.
Yeah, Tabs, how's that looking to you?
Yeah, that's nice.
I'm just putting a little bit more in the back of the frame.
Obviously, finding World War II props is hard enough. Either ridiculously expensive or you just can't get a hold of them. We met this character called Ronnie. What can I say? This guy's got everything.
But he brought on board all the weapons, which are absolutely great, brought on the costumes and built the main set down at the frontline scene.
Everything was his, down to the plane. I mean, who's got a World War II plane? Ronnie.
Ronnie's worked on quite a lot. He's worked on Atonement, Sahara. He did Island at War, if you remember that.
And then the war stuff, Valkyrie recently, Charlotte Gray, Captain Corelli's Mandolin, Band of Brothers, Enemy at the Gate, all the usual suspects, and then various other things, Children of Men. The list goes on, and you just sound like a big head if you keep spieling them out. Mainly props, uniforms, a little bit of advising, and vehicles as well. So we've been pretty busy with this small production, which seems to have grown and grown and grown.
Second action!
Anyone that smokes, you're alright with that. There's another one.
It gives it more of an essence to it. If you know that they're real and the actors know they're real, you take more care over it, so it becomes a more kind of, well, you get lost in the world of it and it feels more realistic, so you believe it a lot more. And if you believe it, then the audience is going to believe it a lot more, because it comes across in how you dress it, how you act in it, how you use it.
And especially with the German stuff, there isn't that much of it about. It's very collectible. and unfortunately a lot of it goes abroad. America, big collectors, it disappears. It's a shame. The Opel Blitz truck that you saw at the front line's a nice piece. It's a four-wheel drive, very rare, very few of them left now. Went to North Africa and all the rest of it, so that was a nice piece for the collectors out there. And of course the Kübelwagen, it's every boy's dream of the German soldier's little car, isn't it? You've got to have one of them. You sort of acquire it over the years, put it to use again and again and again until it falls to pieces or basically rusts. Time kills everything, doesn't it? The rust worm never sleeps. We provided the weapons on this as well, yeah.
So you've got the K98 and you've got the MP40s, the MP44. You've just got the German Mosin & Ganz rifle, but then you've got the sniper version, which is just basically Mosin & Ganz with an extended scope. And then you've got the PSH, there's different handguns.
All deactivated or rubber weapons on this, no live firing. The sheer cost of that for a small production would have slaughtered it.
He taught me everything. He's a World War II fanatic, and I'm glad I've had him next to us saying, no, that's wrong. Oh, well done, Russ.
But now we guide, make sure the extras and the actors are dressed correctly, make sure they move like soldiers. Nice and tight. Tuck yourself down and come round. Pull it down so you're shuffling it. Yeah. Try not to trip. The young sniper, Jason, we trained him at the beginning of the week to get his role. So we are here to blend in, but also keep an eye on them, make sure they behave the way they should do.
Engines. Sarge! Bang!
Bomb! Right, bit more animated on the day.
The woofer.
Yeah. It's the woofer?
It's technically known as a woofer in the trade. It's basically a compressed tank with a quick release valve.
And what does it do?
Fires out debris out of this cone, or you can fill it with propane and create a source of ignition and then do a big fireball out of it.
Action!
Taiwanese love eggs. They're good because the two of them spin round when they're attached to the string. Dildos, love eggs. Buy dildos out of them as well, yeah.
No way.
They fly pretty good.
I don't believe you.
Rubber ones do that as well, it's like a salmon.
Be debris coming down possibly.
I've told them already.
Scene 26, slate 97, take 1, day 6. Cameras at speed.
Okay.
Quiet,
Hit it.
please.
In position, Mike. Yeah. Set.
And action!
It's coming round again.
Plane! Bomb!
You got enough.
So we're happy with that?
Yeah, nice explosion.
There's a lot of fight scenes, there's a lot of explosions and weaponry and vehicles that some of us aren't used to working with, so we've had to get to grips with that very quickly.
So on the days, it's gonna be under the tunic, so it's gonna have to blast through the. They're making holes in the tunic. They are.
Yeah.
And what kind of explosion should I expect? Is it like a?
There's a reasonable bang to it.
Yeah.
Because it's got to be powerful enough to blow through that.
So should I have plugs in?
Yeah,
3, 2, 1.
Okay. Ah! Bit late.
Happens every day.
3, 2, 1.
Bombshell safety test.
Oh yeah. You got some ringing?
Yep. We've got some earplugs for you.
Yeah, you need these earplugs.
Now, what's all the contraption on his
squibs?
That was kind of nerve-wracking for me to be wired up with all these explosives, and then when they call action, you go, oh, I hope my head's still on at the end of this take.
You got anything to dirty this down?
Yeah, we are.
Is there when people come and hold your ladder for you, it makes me more nervous than what it was when they were
I'm rigger.
And what does that entail? How do you do that safely?
Oh, can't tell you that.
Go on, tell me, mate.
Trade secrets.
Really?
Yeah.
So what's he? Is he wearing a harness or how do you do it?
Yeah, he's got a harness and he's hanging on a little wire.
You alright, Lucas?
Yeah, come on.
Action! Thanks so much.
Cool, thank you. Alright. Yeah.
Okay, we're ready for a rehearsal and action!
Play!
Good action sequences, quite physical stuff where I've been rolling around, thrown, I've been, you know, pretty kick-ass really.
Lucas?
Yeah?
Just line there, can you run your line for me?
Fleischer, where are you, Fleischer?
I need to hear the level you're going to do it.
Fleischer? Where are you, Fleischer?
Basically, everything you hear that happens on set, it's down to me to either tell them to take it away or to record it and set it up so we can record it nicely. One of the things I like to look for, in fact, is body language. Because these specific uniforms, they rustle and they have very big boots and stuff, and especially the equipment, kind of the way it rattles and when they walk and so on. It makes a certain sound, and I like to tie a lot of that to the visual images and get as much of that on set as possible, so you don't have to do it in post.
Alright, okay, cut.
Good. Alice, I'm happy to go.
Okay,
The way I see my job is I'm to feed post with material, and the more stuff I can get on set, the less work they have to do.
Continuity is making the editor's job easier, basically. Like, I'm the editor's eyes on set, making sure that they can use as much of the coverage as they can any time, and, you know, not limiting the edit then to, oh, we can only use this bit because it makes sense. You want to be able to use everything. So you eliminate problems when you're filming, and then in the edit everything's a whole lot easier. Well, we could take it from please be seated, gentlemen.
Please be seated, which is off.
Yeah, that's where you want to take it.
And making sure that shots match up and actors are saying the right lines at the right time while holding the right props and wearing the right costume and looking the right way.
Look at his arms and body.
Arms and legs. Are you fucking with me on purpose, Gil? I'm gonna come over there and strangle you. Are you?
It's my fifth time. What are you talking about?
I am the costume designer. So yeah, pretty much just everything related to dressing and how they look is down to me, really.
This is basically just the standard German army uniform. Field grey, crim shield, Eastern Front, ribbon, just generally what the German soldier wore around about 1944.
All the research about how each person would look depending on rank, on, you know, whether they were army or SS. And then yeah, getting to meet wonderful Ronnie, who's our supplier.
With many uniforms, German, wherever, British or whatever, Russian, they changed as the war went on, and it would depend where the soldiers had come from to what they were wearing.
The German uniform changed hugely depending on obviously when they were losing it, not having the money for the fabrics. So, and obviously when discrepancies would happen within the actual jackets and trousers and stuff, they would modify it and change it, so the buttons would change and things like that.
But if you did it textbook, it would look wrong.
It's a standalone scene. It's totally.
It's unreal, the uniforms. I send them out dirty each day and they come back looking clean.
I mean, this outfit's been through hell and back, and it looks so pretty in good condition, doesn't it? Look, it's just self-cleans, really, you know. It's that blood on it and dirt and dust, but yeah, they're amazing.
Gonna literally put this on, bits of mud, straw, just yeah, a bit of everything really. Make him look a bit authentic.
Mark, you need to rub your hands on your nose. Do this. Squint your face out. You know, it's a period piece. It's basically short back and sides. We did lots of research again on soldiers in war, how to have your hair, how short it had to be off the collar. So it's been lots of maintenance, hasn't it? Just kind of making sure the back of their necks are kept clipped clean and no facial hair, and trying to get them to remember to shave every day has been a bit of a job at times. Miriam's character Anna is a professional, so we had to find a hairstyle that was both pretty but practical for somebody who was traipsing through the forest.
Pretty gruesome, lots of wounds, knives in the eye, knives in the throat, hatchets to the face. Weirdly, only a couple of bullet wounds.
not sure why. Blood's, we've had a lot of blood pumps, so spurting blood out of wounds in the neck, for example, and just general lots of blood and gore.
Will you just help me so I put the action?
Yeah, well, it's been a brutal shoot, to be honest. We've been in this shooting most of the film in a place called Greystoke Forest.
It's a relatively inexpensive way to shoot a film because although you have to provide the uniforms and the weaponry, etc., a forest is a forest is a forest. So a forest in Penrith looks pretty much like a forest in Romania.
Guys, we are pretty much ready for a take, so I'd like everyone in first position.
Scene 87, Slate, 4, 3, 2, take 1. Cameras at speed.
Speed.
Set.
And action.
Well, this film is set in 1944, and the Hallabatu Forest has been untouched by man for, well, forever. And you find random tree stumps every now and then. Obviously, you've got to try and disguise them or cover them.
There's a lot of shots that our director and our DOP like to do, a lot of very long walking, talking shots, especially straight down the barrel. And the forest presents a lot of trees either side, and feeding a boom in and out of that can be very difficult. So we had to spend a lot of time trimming and peeling back and taping down a lot of branches. So my boom op would have a very specific runway to do his job and get clean tracks with his boom.
Well, my role here is third assistant director, and what that is on site, on set, I basically assist the first assistant director, and my main goal is to communicate with all departments and basically make sure things, everyone knows everything and communicate.
We need to communicate within the site, within the forest itself, which we're using walkie-talkies. Because of all the trees and hills, we've been struggling a hell of a lot. There have been some days where we've been in certain areas within the forest where we're trying to communicate with unit base, and the only way we can do it is literally send a human walkie-talkie, which is a runner in a car driving up and down the forest, taking a message from A to B and back.
I'm the runner on set, just go and do all the sorts of odd jobs, driving people around, just make teas and coffees, get the biscuits and any food and stuff like that.
And how are you finding it?
It's pretty good, apart from the weather some days, you know, like days like today are pretty crappy.
Up to now, what's been the most challenging aspect of this particular shoot?
The weather, I would say, without a doubt, as you should know.
Because we lost a lot of time on week 1 because of the weather, and we also lost some time on week 2 because of the weather. Week 3, because of the weather, we lost some time.
It's just been pissing down shitload at the start, and it's still constantly raining now.
We've had days where we've had snow, we've had hail, we've had rain, and we've had sun.
We chose to shoot everything outdoors except in here and the HQ, pretty much. So we have been at the mercy of the weather. We chose April and May because, from past experience, they've been the best months of the year for weather. This year, however, has been an exception.
The cold we can cope with, the rain is not good. Is not good to us.
The rain is basically a nightmare for any sort of blood work, any wet blood, because obviously it washes away.
It's thinning down the blood.
It's thinning down the blood too much, and it's coming like a wash. It's just a wash, and then. But in the last scene, it was like thicker, but we're just going to have to put some more like newer blood on it.
You use up a lot more products than perhaps you want to. You know, obviously we use state-of-the-art makeups that work in all weather conditions. However, they only work up to a point.
You are fighting nature, but you know, we're professionals.
We are 100%.
I'd like to think we were prepared for a lot of weather, but I weren't quite prepared for the technical issues that it raised. So there were some days and half days that we absolutely couldn't shoot because of the noise of the rain.
It was very, very challenging. We had to do a lot of work to keep the equipment just running, let alone actually running to an optimal level, getting decent recordings. When it was raining, that was one of the main challenges, because while it sounds like it's raining in the forest, when you add in lots of people with Rain Max, umbrellas, and coverage for the cameras and stuff, that stuff does not sound like a bunch of Nazis running around the forest in 1944 or whatever the film's set.
The minute something gets wet, i.e. the flooring, it just turned into a bogmire. So we had to kind of keep changing locations and coming back to new ones and trying to work out how it was going to work.
The locations where some of them weren't easy to get to, a lot of people fell down.
in the summer. I've left the summer, the sunny beaches, and the easy, cruisy life of Los Angeles to come and spend a brutal winter. And well, it's not winter, but it seems like winter.
Yeah, when I go home, then I can process and reflect. But it's survival at the minute. It's just about getting through each moment, I think.
As an actor, how's that affected your process?
It makes it very much easier, actually, because we're meant to be basically around, in the vicinity of Stalingrad, so you get a renewed appreciation for what those guys went through, and it doesn't really take much acting to feel in that severe climate, So
Very, very stressful, and because the subject matter and everything else. Yeah, my first film, so it's been extremely kind of high octane ups and downs. It's been a roller coaster ride, baby.
I've worked on a whole range of different jobs in the film industry, and have worked hard in all aspects of those. But the last 5 weeks has probably been the hardest work I've ever had in my career. It's unbelievably challenging in terms of logistics and keeping everything going. It's day to day. What problems you're going to have tomorrow? How are we going to solve those? Keeping ahead of the game day by day. It's all down to keeping the guys that are working here happy, keeping all the things that they need there at the right time and as they want them. It's incredibly difficult, but incredibly, at the end of the day, when you see the rushes, when you see what you're actually creating, it's a fantastic feeling.
We've probably been stopped by the sun as much as the rain.
Because it's an action film, we have a lot of sequences which take place in reality over a very short period of time, but are actually shot over several days. So your greatest challenge is ensuring consistency of your light.
Alice,
yeah.
We can do this before this cloud comes over.
Yeah.
So if you start filming something in clouds, you have to wait for cloud cover. If you start filming something in sun, you have to keep waiting for sun. And if you're unfortunate enough to start in the rain, you generally have to wait for cloud or sun.
Well, it provided shelter, which is definitely something that I enjoyed. Less rain, but then when you take one problem away, you're adding another one.
It was a lime kiln that had been there for over 100 years, I think it was, and it was a massive tunnel with loads of openings all the way around, which meant we got some lovely shots of the light coming through, and when the actors ran through, they kind of dappled in the lights, which was really, really nice.
A big, massive wall of stone had a certain reverberation to it. When you make a certain sound to a certain level, it bounces around. The sound doesn't escape, it doesn't get absorbed, it doesn't get diffused by the trees, if you would. It gets kept in that area. So when someone speaks a piece of the line of dialogue very loud, you get 4, 5, sometimes even 8 different variations of that dialogue immediately coming straight back at you.
It was quite difficult to work with in some instances because it's so old, we weren't allowed to touch that much, which is, obviously standard. But it lent itself to our script because we wanted the dark and the contrast to the forest, which previously had been quite light. So when we got in there, it was dark and shadowy, and the characters had the opportunity to become a bit more contained, so they felt a bit more claustrophobic. This is the German HQ interior of Colonel Schwab's office, which we had to dress this morning, which was quite good fun. It was nice to do. Nice to be out of the forest at last.
And now it's like the last 2 days, and it's in the headquarters and indoors, and you're kidding me. I don't even have to wear like a dozen long sleeve shirts underneath.
Cameras at speed.
Yeah. This is bread and butter. This is for a sound recordist or a production mixer. It's a lot easier. We have lights. We know where they are. We're not having the sun constantly move. We're not flipping around constantly. So when we're indoors, we're able to pick our battles.
You're not going to be affected by the weather that much. You can control the heating to some extent. You know that your props don't get wet, so you don't have to worry about water damage. You don't have to worry about costume changing or the lights changing or kind of anything really. So it's nice to be able to be settled and contained in a room that you can just dress and sit in and have a 360 dress and not have to worry about a car flying past in shot or getting rained on or a dog walker going past in the forest.
It's not easy, but it's definitely a hell of a lot easier. It has its own set of challenges. We're in a very confined space. My boomer has to swing to certain things, especially when you have a room that's populated with lots of objects plus characters. They're in different locations and you have to swing to try and catch all the lines of dialogue. That can be quite, you have to be quite dynamic and even Olympic sometimes to get all that. But it's a lot more controlled, it's a lot more familiar. So today, the last day and a half, we're doing kind of traditional filmmaking. The last 4.5 weeks, we've been doing kind of guerrilla filmmaking.
After tomorrow, which is the final day, which should actually be a morning, we should be finished by 1 o'clock. So after that, it will be a case of packing everything up from this location, going back to the unit base. Probably people will start packing the bags. That will take us till to Saturday evening. Probably cars loaded up, ready for shipping out Sunday morning. And hopefully tonight there might be a couple of sherbets to be had.
I've had
an amazing time.
Yeah,
loved
awesome
every minute
time.
of it. Yeah,
it's been hilarious. It's been absolutely hilarious, and yeah, it's been a bit guerrilla styley, but I think that's definitely added to the fun.
He's filming it now.
That kind of thing.
Maybe not quite.
But the cast and crew, I've been saying to my boom up quite a lot the fact that there's not really been a divide between those different departments. Everyone has been, I wouldn't say pitching in, but everyone has been making an effort to talk to each other and get to know each other and understand each other's jobs, which has been vital.
Because we've been in such a close environment, we've had to learn more about each other's roles within the film. So we've been very aware of all the departments and very respectful of everyone's departments.
They've really kind of stepped up to the mark, because even though it's a low budget shoot, they've really excelled and they've really put themselves forward, and everybody's put 110% effort in, which has obviously come across in everything from makeup to camera to lighting to art department to costume. Everyone really has excelled so much on this, so it's nice to walk away with new people and new friends and new contacts as well, obviously.
What has been fantastic is how we as a group of filmmakers have gelled in this project, and it's fantastic in the sense that we can now hopefully take our relationship on to other projects.
We have a couple of films on the horizon which we're sort of having a look at, which will be a lot easier to shoot than this one was.
Get in there.
Wait, stay good. Give me a hug.
What have you got?
Huh?
What? Are you off?
Yeah.
Ah, you're actually here.
The main thing for me has been the people. I mean, we're a low budget feature, but the people have been absolutely amazing. Just 100% professional, all the time, on and off screen, and it's been a real pleasure. And I just can't wait to see the results. I can't wait to see Soldiers of the Damned up on the big screen.